to.
Sounds good.
All right, we are back, and our next presenter is Beth Cohen, and she is going to take us into the wonderful world of gamifying your library orientation. This one ought to be a real good one. So want to make sure that you can handle can you share your screen now?
Looks like it.
Okay. All right, take it away.
All right. So the first thing I'll say, Casey, thanks for having me and your comments right before the recording started. Don't be afraid. Your students don't know what this is supposed to look like. Tell them it's a game. They'll love it, even if it has hiccups. I've done this with high school students. I'm a high school librarian, and I've done a couple variations. But just so I can get an idea, can people post in the chat what your familiarity is with this? From I have no idea what you're talking about to I'm all great on this. All right. Looks like lots of 4s and 5s there. Couple 1s and 2s. Okay. Just kind of gives me an idea of where I can zoom through things a little more quickly than spending a lot of time getting into the nitty-gritty. I will post this link in the chat, or you can use the QR code there. This links to this presentation, all of the breakouts that I've created. You can copy, or it'll force you to make a copy of any of the activities here. So deconstruct them, make them your own, use them, share them, try them. Tons of resources. So please take a look, reach out if you have any questions. I am happy to share, help, whatever you need. All right, so for those of you not super familiar, I got into digital breakouts actually because of the Hive Summit. If you know that, Michael Matera does that. It was in the summers and the winters. And he started a digital breakout where each of the presenters created a clue, and then you just sort of did it for the glory and the being able to brag on social media that you had completed it. Those of you, my son is pushing 30 these days. So if you're familiar with Freddy Fish or Pajama Sam, they were games that came out that people could hear. That could play with. Where you sort of moved around an environment and you would pick up an object here that you would use later. And then, of course, the escape rooms that people did, and then Breakout EDU had sort of a very small physical component of that you could use with multiple locks. And so a digital breakout is an online only component of the Breakout EDU kit. I see somebody's got their hand up. Do I need to respond to that? Okay, great. So goals for today, why use breakouts, how I create them, and then some of the nitty-gritty details of how to create them. So why breakouts? So for those of you that have to teach to standards, these are all of the AASL standards that it hits. ISTE standards, and then the 4 C's of 21st century learners. So it kind of hits a lot of those key points that we're trying to integrate into our classrooms. So breakouts you can use for anything. As I said, I use them as my library orientation for incoming freshmen. So they have some knowledge of how libraries work, hopefully the Dewey Decimal System, but they're not familiar with my physical space or the online presence of my library. So this forces them to explore. Formative assessments, you can do it with your students. You've got 20 minutes, go break out, do it for fun or as a review activity, however you think it fits best, and how much time and effort you want to put into building it. Something that takes 10 minutes is less complicated than for my students. It's about 45 minutes for them to complete my breakout. So the process, it's not going to be linear. You're going to have to think about it, go back, tweak things as you go. So don't think of it as a linear process. So this is the first one that I did. So this is sort of the screen. This is your home base, I guess. So each of these, when students clicked on them, it opened up an activity or a link in most cases to something else. So the telephone was your helpline. So it took them to a book creator book that I had made about the library. This took them to the Destiny catalog. This was the orientation letter that, was from me. So this is supposed to be, you got trapped in the library and you were exploring the librarian's desk to see how to escape. Yep, that is the correct bit.ly. Thank you, Samantha. So when you're building it, thinking about what do you want your students to do or demonstrate? What's the goal of the project? Do you want them to have fun? Do you want them to explore the library? Do you want them to demonstrate knowledge about the Boston Tea Party? I don't know. So here are the goals that I accomplish, hopefully, with my library orientation breakout. And then you start thinking about what can they do? How can they meet those goals? What activities would address your plan? So Breakout EDU has a brainstorming worksheet. I just created my own. It's a Google Doc with a table, but it's helpful for me to kind of line this up. So the first column is the goal. What do I want them to do? And then how are they going to do that? How is that represented on that desktop landing page? And then what is the, what is the clue? And then for me, what's the answer to the activity? All right, so then you want to think about create. You need to build your lock and your lock box. So your lock box in this case is a Google form where students are entering the answers, and then your locks can be all kinds of different activities. And in the resources, if you follow that bit.ly, there's, I think, 2 pages of Google links for all kinds of websites that you can use. So again, here's that Google Drawings desktop, and each of these things is clickable and links to an activity, or in this case, the helpline. You can always call for help. So then you want to set the scene. So in my case, it's, you dragged yourself down to the library for another boring lecture on the Dewey Decimal System, but suddenly the doors slam shut, the curtains close, and you're trapped in the library. And the only way to escape is by looking at the librarian's desktop. I kind of sneak in that you decide to work in groups of no more than 4. And for safety's sake, you decide to stay together, which is, work in groups of 4 and everybody has to work on the same puzzle at the same time. So then you're going to test and revise all of your locks. At least for me, I know that students are pretty locked down in some of the online resources that they can access. So I always have to go in with a student account to test all of these games and links and make sure that students can access them properly. I also make my son do it occasionally to make sure that, because you're kind of reverse engineering the clue, the lock, what the answer is, so that can kind of impact the test or the hints, the questions that you give. And so something that seems like a logical match to you isn't to other people. So it's always nice to have somebody else just put eyes on it and be like, I have no idea how you got from A to answer A. So test, find a willing guinea pig or a semi-willing guinea pig like your teenager, or log in with a student account. Another thing that you might want to think about is differentiation. In my school, we have 2 levels of freshman English. We have honors and then college prep or CP courses. So sometimes I'll do 2 different versions and I'll give the CP students the choice of which they want to do. The other way is to just provide scaffolding that students can use if they choose to. So a different interface connecting the clues directly to the lock. So in that case, in the Google form, and just instead of just saying 5-letter answer, you would say, click on this link, solve the puzzle, enter the 5-letter answer here. instead of that desktop where you click on it and you go to an activity and then you have to figure out what you do with the information that you find. And then help links, as I said, I had that telephone on the desk screen where students could click on that for help if they wanted it. And then I also give them tracking charts, so similar to that spreadsheet that I use to help me keep track. So this is the simpler interface where when they clicked on the highlighted links here in this welcome letter, it tied to one of these. So they kind of had a better idea of what matched with what. And here again is an example of where sort of the directions are in the lock, so to speak. This is what you got when you clicked on the phone on the desktop. And then this is your list. So here are the so-called locks. So I have to do something. If I look at the 338.9 post-it, when I went there, what was the answer that I got, or what information did I learn? And then what clue did that align with? And then you want to give students a chance for feedback. So think of it as an exit ticket. You know, did you have fun? How hard was it? Did you like it? What was the best part? Things like that. So some of it you can just, as they're running around, are they excited or are they sitting in the corner, not wanting to participate? So you can do exit tickets with Likert scales or open-ended questions on a scale of 1 to 5. How much did you like it? On a scale of 1 to 5. How hard was it? On a scale of 1 to 5. How well do you think you know the high school library now? Or you could just say, what was your favorite part? What didn't you like? That kind of thing, depending on what kind of feedback you want. And then think about whether you want to reward or acknowledge students who escape. I'm all about digital badging. Personally, I will do almost anything for a digital badge. So if you have a learning management system that allows you to give out digital badges, can you create a sticker? I've learned that high school students are still very motivated by stickers. I stand in the hallway. We do Sticker Tuesday, and I just stand in the hallway before first block and hand out stickers. And I have kids who will detour just to get the sticker of the week. So don't underestimate the power of a sticker for a teenager. They put them on their phones, they put them on their notebooks, they put them on their water bottles. Photo props, if you've ever gone to a party with a photo booth where they have like the little mustaches or the funny hats. And a lot of times if you do a breakout room or a physical escape room, they'll have signs that say we broke out or we escaped or I conquered library orientation. Give them a sign. They're kids, they'll take selfies. And if you can get them to share with you, you can put it on social media. And I'll show you another way to sneak in pictures of your students using this. And then you could also just print physical certificates. I don't know what your printing situation is, but you could certainly hand those out as well. So a couple of different options, Formule, Autocrat, a lot of those, when they successfully complete the Google form and submit it, any of these tools will allow you, or Formule, Autocrat, and Certify them, all of which are blocked in my district, by the way, even for teachers, will let you automatically generate a certificate, which you can create. And Sticker Mule does physical stickers. They're pretty cheap and they let you design your own. So you can get, you know, a roll of 500 stickers for not super much. And then Canva, of course, we just had a great presentation on Canva and sketchnoting, but you can design stickers pretty easily or digital badges in Canva as well. So a few hiccups. I've been doing this for, well, pre-COVID, so I guess at least 3 years. A couple of things. One, every now and then I'll have a very linear thinker. I had one student on the spectrum who just the concept of question A doesn't have answer A. Really, he just had trouble with the whole, you're going to run around and gather information, and then the information gets applied somewhere else. He just really had trouble with the whole kind of concept of a breakout room where you're doing things that aren't concretely tied to, where the question isn't concretely tied to the answer. Confusing clues, I'll show you an example of one of those. Technical issues, obviously, if the internet goes down in your building, it doesn't work. And then think about your filters. How are your students accessing? Are they going to be blocked? That's part of that test it with a student account. And then hackers, I have students who now know how to go in and just look for the answers. So they, obviously just want to be done and miss the point of learning about the library. Surprisingly clever high school students. So kind of getting into the nitty gritty and the details now about the locks. I'm just going to take a real quick peek at the chat before I do that. There you go, Samantha, all about the stickers. All right. So this is just a Google Drawings desktop. As I said, I just brought in a bunch of clip art and everything is linked to either an activity or the keys themselves are the lockbox there. So the trick with the lockbox and what makes it work is that you use a Google form with response validation. So somewhere in the resources that you'll have access to is a link to, I think, a video and a couple of websites maybe about response validation. So when you create your open-ended question, you want to click on response validation. So then you type in the correct answer and you want to change it to text contains. And even if you're using numbers, you still want to use text. And then this one right here where it currently says, what would Dewey do? That's the clue that shows if something incorrect, if an incorrect answer is inputted. I learned the hard way that if you leave this blank and somebody puts in an incorrect answer, it will give them the correct answer. So make sure that you can put a hint in here. So this is just, for example, this is the go to 338.9. Sorry, somebody's trying to ask a question. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Let me mute something else that's going on here.
All right. So this was the 338.2 was a post-it note on the desk. And if you went to that location, you found that it was a book called Salt. So then the text contains, and the hint says it's 4 letters and it needs to be all caps, which just makes it easier to validate for you. So this is sort of the big important part is your lockbox, is this response validation portion. So one of the clues was a shelfie. This was getting them to practice locating items within the library. And again, this is where I said you can sneak in some social media because they will take pictures of themselves holding their books. And then you go, hey, that's a great picture. Can I put it on the library's website? And they're like, sure. So you can sneak that right in, pictures of students using books, playing in the library, having a great time. They're all smiles. So that's one that's really pretty easy. And as I said, they're teenagers. They like social media. They like to use their phones. You do need to be aware of either are your students' laptop cameras activated? Because the first time I did this, they weren't. Our students had their cameras turned off, which I didn't realize. And also I am a 1980s cinder block school in a relatively dead zone in terms of cell towers. So for 1 year, they couldn't use the computer cameras, and then they also couldn't use their cell phones. Now, because this is all Google, they all use Google. We're a Google Classroom school. Now they can get everything on their cell phones, and it seems to work. But that's just one note that be aware of that. If you want to do something like this, you want to make sure the students have access. This is a very rough outline of my library. And this is there's random letters. And so when they go in order to find the items listed there, it spells out the word catalog. So the printer is here, graphic novels are over here, etc. So when they find those items in the correct order, it spells the word catalog, which is the clue or the lock. This one, I admit, I totally stole from somebody and reverse engineered it. I think this is from the Hive Summit. So this is if-then formatting. So the answers show up individually as you set it. Oh, no typo there. So normally you just see the first question, and then there's a hidden sheet down here where it says sheet 2. That has the hidden formatting for if you correctly type 13 in this cell, then this question appears. So they go in order. They don't see the next clue until they've answered this. So this was about using Destiny Discover. They had to do searches on the website. So again, this was one that I said I sort of searched Google and watched a lot of videos and then kind of hacked somebody else's version. So you have this, feel free to hack it, reverse engineer it, whatever you want to do to make it your own. But fix the typo there that I just noticed after 3 years. Surprised no students pointed that out to me. This is Match the Memory, which is an online game. So it lets you put in your own clues and matching words in, you know, that old memory flip card game. So here it says message, and then it says, congratulations, the code word is, and this is, yes, let me pop that into the chat. This is at least for me, it's an open website, not blocked for my students. So it just pops up and says, you know, welcome to Beth Cohen's matching game. And this is all sort of library procedures. Like how many books can you have checked out? What time is the library open? Where can you eat lunch? Those kind of things. I believe I still have the link. Yep. All right, so I just posted the link there in the chat again. Yeah, okay. So this is Jigsaw Planet Online. It's a website where, again, you can create, you put up an image and it will turn it into a jigsaw puzzle for you. You can see whether that works, but if you want to stay completely within Google, you can cut and copy the pieces, excuse me, and make them a movable Google Drawings jigsaw puzzle if you want to stay completely within the Google field without having to break out. So same thing, and this had something to do with the games that we have in the library. We have a little game shelf if you want to come in during lunch, or we have what's called fifth block, sort of the activities block after school, where students who are waiting for sports to start, if they're not in the band or getting tutoring or something like that, they just come and hang out in the library. So we have a number of games that they can play. So this was the Google Drawings to-do list, and this was one of those clues that didn't work. There was a hint about a color code, and they were trying to use this. So I just grabbed this image off the internet from printable-to-do-list.com. And so I didn't realize I was just trying to pick a colorful one and didn't realize that it was going to look like this. So you were just supposed to go look at the list of new books in the library catalog. And so this one just ended up being a very confusing clue, which you won't necessarily know until the students start doing it. But this is one of those examples of, it made sense to me, but I wasn't thinking about colors being part of a clue. All right, so I also did a quick variation. I'm going to zip through this. We just have a couple minutes. So this was one that I did that had to be completely virtual because during COVID, students weren't allowed in the library. So this is entirely virtual. Let's see if it'll load. Well, that's rude. There we go. All right, this is an idea that came from John Meehan, who's Adrenaline Rush, if you know that website. So here we go. Click on the images of the next 3 slides. Use the assigned resource, and then when you have gathered all your clues, click on the envelope. So in this case, when you clicked on the game board, it took you again to a Google form. But in this case, every time you got an answer right, you got feedback. And so it would say the murder didn't happen in the ballroom. So it's sort of like Clue Game. You would go around and you would answer the questions, and then you would say the murderer wasn't Colonel Mustard, or the weapon wasn't the wrench. And so then at the end, you should be left with 1 room, 1 person, and 1 weapon. And then you fill it in, you click on this, and it opens up the Google form where you get to enter the person, the room, and the weapon, just like a normal Clue game where you say, you know, I accuse so-and-so. So that's just a different variation. So here you have all, like I said, all of the resources. So my tools and locks, just general resources on game building, digital breakouts. This is the clue variation. And then this one, when I do this presentation live, this is a real kind of short 4-question one for people who have never tried it before, but it also has the answers. So it's, you are a colonial spy in Philadelphia, and it gives you a number of tasks. So here's the links if you want to go learn more about Freddy Fish or the Hive Summit. And then that is my information. So we have a few minutes here. I'm going to check the Q&A.
This was
So
also my question too, about if the
Yes.
school is mobile free, how do you navigate it?
With cell phones or?
Without cell phones, maybe they may have tablets
Yeah, my
or
students.
Chromebooks.
Chromebooks, you have to make sure that the cameras are operational on a Chromebook, that they're not turned off for students. There's also, if you have iPads, I know that that sometimes works better because you can take the picture with the actual iPad instead of the camera. So it's similar to Goose Chase. My middle school colleague does a Goose Chase for her orientation because she has a supply of iPads that she uses with her students. So each group gets their own individual iPad to do that. So let's see, have I ever seen this done with elementary students? I have never done it with elementary students, but I think you could. You might do more of the scaffolding where you said, go to Destiny, discover, and answer these 3 questions. And you could be more specific. It wouldn't be the sort of breakout where you said 5-letter answer. You could say, what is the title of the book at the call number XYZ? So it's a little bit less of that, gather a piece of information and figure out what lock it opens and do it more of a specific question and answer approach, I think would be how I would try it if I wanted to do it at an elementary school. All right, I think I've answered all of the questions. I put the link in there. Please feel free to reach out. Shoot me an email. I'm happy to even Zoom with you if you want some information. Do me a favor though, and please don't ask for editing access of any of those files. You might need to make a copy of some of them, or some of them will force a copy. But please don't send me editing access, because then obviously you're changing it for everyone. So thank you, Casey. Thank you so much for including me. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying everybody else's presentations as well.
I know I get so much out of this, because this is my 25th year working in school libraries, and, I still learn something and apply something new every single year. And I'm really grateful for the time spent from all the presenters and you to come in and present. Give up your time during a summer break where you could be on somewhere or in the mountains, enjoying yourself. And this is how we all make each other better, as far as I'm concerned, by doing this type of work. Where can we find you on social media?
The professional one is at SHHS Lib is the one that I used for school. And then I'm personally at B Cohen PA, which is where I'm a little more outspoken about library things. And I believe I got on Instagram more recently. The yearbook and journalism clubs at school convinced me to get on Instagram. So I think at Instagram, it's at SHHS Library at Instagram, I believe. You know what? Maybe I can check that. And I can change that. I'll add it to the slide. And then when people get the updated slide, those contacts will be there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much again. And, this put all the information on the wonderful, forms that we're going to share out with everybody. And, everybody.
Yep, the link is there.
And we're all good to go. Well, thank you once again. And
thank you, everyone.
Appreciate you.